coverage of SCG Regional Championships, hosted by Nerd Rage Gaming. I'm your host, Andrew Donnelly. With me, my co-host, Matt Dow. Let's get right into the action. We have fan favorite Jeff Hoogland.
Yes, people love when he puts lands in front of his spells and creatures.
Very true.
And Jeff is 7-1. These players here are playing for top 8. So Jeff Hoogland on the play, playing Tamir Aggro versus Justin Williams playing Red Green Monsters. So Jeff has my favorite card, Frostwalker.
Yep.
In his deck.
Awesome.
So hopefully we get a good one here. I don't really know who is favored in this matchup. Probably the person who draws better cards. Just the person with the better draw, I'd imagine. Like, I think the creatures line up similarly.
Sure.
Yeah. Spells line up similarly. So, although Jeff has a couple of dead cards, I think, in his deck for Game 1 and Stubborn Denial, I don't think they're going to be very good. Although Justin does have some Crater's Claws and some Lightning Strikes. But Jeff going to lead off here with Elvish Mystic, so can't really ask for a better turn 1 play, especially when your opponent is not capable of also playing an Elvish Mystic. And there's a Savage Knuckleblade for Jeff, so this card is going to do some work. I imagine Justin really didn't have any great answers to it, especially when he's just going to play a Mountain and pass back. Just going to draws an Era of the Wilds, playing 4 of those. He's going to play a Frontier Bivouac, and imagine
And you rattled that off pretty quick. Bivouac.
Bivouac,
That's
man.
a hard one,
Trust
dude.
me, I've
Bivouac
read books.
Stuff.
Savage Knuckleblade and Elvish Mystic getting into the red zone, and they're going to attack for 5, and there it is, baby.
That's the
Frostwalker. Yeah, that's
You
a
wanted
4-1.
this card.
Yeah, this card is sweet.
Wasn't this going to be on your list? Wasn't it going to be on your list? Yeah,
it was. I think this card is excellent, and I also think it's excellent. It's excellent in general and excellent right now. This card is really good, as we discussed earlier. So Justin is going to crack a Wooded Foothills and get a forest here, and Justin really didn't have too many great plays here. This Savage Knuckleblade is a pretty big threat that he's going to have a difficult time getting around. So it looks like he's going to cast a Goblin Rabblemaster. I assume Jeff is going to not care and take the 1 damage from the Goblin. Yep, sure enough. So yeah, turn 2 Knuckleblade, pretty good. Let's see what Jeff has to follow up. I think he has a Stormbreath Dragon in hand, so like if Jeff just curves like Knuckleblade into Frostwalker into yeah, okay, so he has a Crater's Claw for 1.
Yep.
Removes the Rabblemaster. Can still follow up with an Era of the Wilds. Just gonna crash in for 8. Yeah. Putting Justin
5. Holy cow.
Jeff going to take 1 damage off Mana Confluence and play 2 Era of the Wilds, which are 3/3s essentially, with both the Frostwalker and the Savage Knuckleblade. So this draw from Jeff has been pretty good.
This is what we expect of him in his Tamir Aggro list. He played a very similar list back last year at Indy States, and it performed very well. It's nice that he can exceed the level of play too. I mean, he kind of yeah. I mean, it's just a blistering list. It is kind of glass cannon-ish, but it holds up now with some of the newer cards from Fate Reforged.
Yeah, I think the big issue with it is the mana. Usually, that's what I usually see. Whether it's not having the correct colors, but there, Jeff. I mean, turn 2 Savage Knuckleblade against a Red-Green Monsters deck, pretty devastating.
Handedly, you're taking that game. I mean, it's very easy for you to do that, especially when it's a monsters list and it's not the aggro list, so they don't have their own Era of the Wilds to protect against those cards.
For sure. And Justin really just didn't do anything for the first couple of turns, and his turn 3 play was a Goblin Rabblemaster when Jeff already had Frostwalker and a Knuckleblade and had already been beating down. So, yeah.
And it's kind of interesting. You'll notice when Jeff kind of plays these decks, at least from what I've seen in the past, if he knows he has the advantage in a match, he very much likes to press that advantage. So he is prone to running creatures out. He's prone to, if we go back and look at the last 5K that Nerd Rage Gaming hosted here, he almost, he did, in fact, overextend into a board but he essentially made his opponent have the cards. He said, "Look, either you're dead to my attack next turn because I've overextended if you don't have this one card." So it's definitely a very kind of scary style of play.
Yeah, Hoogland, I know I've played him quite a few times. He's usually on the philosophy of make them have it.
Yes,
Which
yeah.
is that philosophy.
Which is
you
a
know,
philosophy to play.
If they have end hostilities or, a wrath effect,
Yep.
then they have it. But I'm not winning the game if I,
Sitting on your laurels.
just
Yeah.
sitting there.
Very different from how we saw Joe Bernal earlier kind of manage his aggro.
Sure.
So what do we got for sideboards, Matt?
All right, so Justin Williams, he'll be on the play for this game. And he has 3 Wild Slashes, 2 Arc Lightnings, 2 Barrage of Boulders, a card I'm a fan of, 3 Destructive Reveille, 1 Ash Cloud Phoenix, 3 Genesis Hydra, and 1 Nissa World Waker.
Interesting.
So I imagine that, I don't know, I don't really like particularly any of these cards. I think Ash Cloud Phoenix is probably fine. It trades with most of Jeff's cards, trades with the Stormbreath Dragon, and then it can also fly over Jeff's ground defense.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like that card. Wild Slash, no, it doesn't seem... Wild Slash actually seems like it could be decent. The problem is it doesn't line up very well against Knuckle Blades and Stormbreath Dragons, or Courser of Crewfixes, which Jeff has, but it does kill Mystics, Shaman of the Great Hunts, Rabble Masters, Heir of the Wilds, so I might bring those, some number of those in. But yeah, outside of that, I'm pretty much clueless on this one. I'd maybe bring in an Ash Cloud Phoenix and some Wild Slashes, and then leave the rest of the things in the sideboard. They seem too slow, and just like don't interact with Jeff at all.
Mm-hmm.
As for Jeff, he's playing 2 Destructive Reveille, a Force Away, a Dig Through Time, 3 Disdainful Strokes, Stubborn Denial, 2 Anger of the Gods, 3 Lightning Strikes, and 2 Wild Slashes.
Okay. I actually like the dig through time in Jeff's sideboard. I feel like sometimes these Tamir aggro lists can kind of putter out and not really find the fuel they're looking for. So it's interesting that he decided to have one of those in there.
Yeah, the question is in this case, do you want to bring that in against a deck that you imagine is probably going to be pretty aggressive? And I'd say probably no. Cards that I do like Wild Slash out of Jeff's deck, because Justin has a lot more targets for it. He has 4 Elvish Mystics, 4 Heir of the Wilds, 3 Boon Satyrs, 4 Rabble Masters, Ash Cloud Phoenix, Shaman of the Great Hunt. So he has a lot more targets.
Yep.
So I like bringing him a couple of those Wild Slashes, probably some number of Disdainful Strokes. I don't know about a full 3. Maybe probably a Force Away. I think Force Away is actually
Force
pretty
Away is
sweet.
an interesting card.
Yeah.
It's interesting to note that he used to play Void Snare, was his card of choice back in States when he first kind of debuted this Tamir aggro list. And I've seen everything from Void Snare to Fated Conflagration in some of the Tamir lists.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I imagine Jeff's going to probably board out some number of Stubborn Denials. Yeah. But I probably bring in Wild Slashes and a Force Away, a couple of Disdainful Strokes.
Yeah, Wild Slash is a good card.
Yeah.
For sure.
Especially against Justin's deck, which is heavy on creatures with 2 power or less. So.
Speak of the devil.
Yep, there's one. And sure enough,
And
there's
there's
a Wild
your
Slash.
Wild Slash. All right, so when following rules of sideboard, you've got the Matt Dow special.
Yeah, so Jeff's going to crack, and he's going to play his own Heir of the Wilds. So nice little tempo play here from Jeff. He got to play a 1-mana spell to kill Justin's 2-mana spell, and now he has a 2-mana spell of his own that Justin, can't answer right now. So Justin just going to pass back with a Boon Satyr mana up.
And I even feel like that may not just be enough, as Jeff is
Just
going to
gonna
get into the red zone.
Attack for 2. And just look like he's just going to pass back. So Jeff does not have a 3rd land. As we mentioned before, one of the issues with this deck is hitting its land drops. Jeff's going to let the Boon Satyr resolve and let Justin go to his turn. And Justin flipping through his cards quickly here. Looks like he has a Stormbreath or Shaman of the Great Hunt in hand, Temple of Abandon, and another Boon Satyr. I kind of like slow rolling the Shaman of the Great Hunt because I think Jeff is definitely telegraphing a removal spell since he waited last turn. Although he could have been bluffing it. And as Justin moved to combat, sure enough, Jeff killed that. He did find his 3rd land, and it is a land that is of all colors. So he's going to get in for 2. Justin going to Wild Slash. Jeff debating here whether to play a Courser of Crufix or hold up Wild Slash. And I imagine he's just going to play the Courser, take a damage off of his Mana Confluence, and hopefully we can get our spotter to move Jeff's deck on camera there, so we can see whether or not he has a land. But Justin's going to end step a Boon Satyr. Then he is going to play a Temple of Abandon and Scry, chip that card to the bottom, and probably play a Shaman of the Great Hunt here, which I imagine is just going to trade with this Courser of Crufix. Although that's, I guess, dependent on what Jeff has on top of his deck.
He has a really aggressive board state from Justin here, which I like. I mean, I like the fact that he's pressuring Jeff when he's kind of backed into a corner on this mana.
Yeah. Yeah, so sure enough, Courser's going to trade with Shaman of the Great Hunt. Jeff's going to take 4, going to 14. Provided Justin remembers his trigger, which he does. So the Shaman should be dead.
So we see a Storm Breath that was on top.
Yeah. So, yeah, Shaman is dead. And Jeff is not in a good position. This 5-power Boon Satyr, he just doesn't have an answer for because he doesn't have a third land, so he can Crater's Claws it. And I think Justin is just going to slam a Storm Breath Dragon here and attack for 9. But nope, I guess he does not have a Storm Breath Dragon. Maybe playing around a Disdainful Stroke? I don't know. Perhaps I don't see his card correctly. So Jeff's going to draw, hopefully a land. Nope. Heir of the Wild's good enough.
Not bad. That Death Touch comes in handy.
Yeah, for sure. It's able to trade with his Boon Satyr. But Justin has a Crater's Claws, so that was the card.
And a Rabble Master in hand. I would force this card right now. Just play the Rabble Master, get the token out.
So Jeff's going to take a damage.
Yep.
And then go to 8, and then take 5 off the Boon Satyr, going to 3. So he really needs to find a third land here. Or a fourth land. He does. So
not the one he wants.
But he can go to 1 and kill this the Boon Satyr. So not the one he wants, but it's better than nothing.
True.
Better than drawing a tapped land here.
I don't know if you're that worried about any other burn from the Red-Green Monsters list. Sans for the Crater's Claws?
Yeah, well, you're just going to die to any burn anyways, aside from Wild Slash. So Jeff is going to take this opportunity to Crater's Claws the Boon Satyr, and Justin's follow-up is just, a 1-1. Problem is Jeff, once again, now doesn't have blue mana because he can't tap the Mana Confluence.
Correct.
So let's see if this Elvish Mystic can get there. Jeff, once again, stuck on 3 lands. He draws a 4th land, so he plays a Shaman.
Wow.
This is a defensive Shaman. Let's see what Justin draws for the turn. Another Mystic, so Jeff, once again, needing another spell.
Visibly perturbed.
Another creature or a spell. Looks like he drew an Heir of the Wilds, so that's...
yeah.
There we go.
Not bad.
And we'll pass it back to Justin. Does he draw a creature or does he draw a land? Or does he... No, it looks like nothing. So Jeff has sort of semi-stabilized here. There we go. That's the card that
that's what he wanted.
There's another
not
Courser
quite.
on top. So
that's good, though.
Yeah, I imagine Jeff can get in here with... no, I guess he can't because he just would lose to Rabble Master then.
Correct.
So he's probably correct in being patient and holding back his guys so he doesn't lose to a top deck Rabble Master.
Yeah, you always want to be careful when you're looking at decks like this to not run into the unexpected burn that your opponent may have. I mean, Jeff's in a position here at least where if he draws this next Courser, flips a land, he can play the second Courser, play the land, and be up to 3 again, so he's not completely worried. But here's a Fanatic of Xenagos, and I think this will be a card that pressures Jeff into making some tough choices, as this is one of the few green cards that that has trample by itself.
Yeah, this is really good for Justin, especially now that it's a 4/4. But Jeff does draw the land, does have a land on top, so he is able to go back up. I think they're probably arguing over what the tribute mechanic means.
It's a pretty confusing mechanic.
It's super confusing as to what the correct wording is. I'll pay tribute or I won't pay tribute.
Correct, and there's a lot of people who respond to it or think they can respond to tribute, which is not the case. You can respond to the counters being put on the creature.
Yeah, so Jeff's going to play a follow-up Courser of Crufix here, and then play a Yavimaios off the top of his deck and go up to 3. And gonna show him a Stormbreath Dragon, which Jeff had a Stormbreath Dragon of his own in his hand, but unfortunately, yeah, just gonna die there.
And that's kind of a tough break. I mean, I feel like
Yeah, I wonder if Jeff could have played around that. Thinking back, if he just plays his own Stormbreath Dragon instead of the Courser, uh, then the Fanatic of Xenagos attacks, the Courser has to block it, the Stormbreath's trade, and yeah, Jeff's just not in a very good position there. Well, he'd be at 2, so he could probably take 1 damage. I think Jeff probably could have played around that.
some, and this is kind of the same thing that we've seen even at regular FNMs with these Tamir lists. Is once again you're either your mana base just doesn't seem as consistent as other tricolor decks, and we see it. We've been punished by chat for this multiple times by saying that, and people just being upset and saying, well, you know, all the decks are the same and all this, and I just don't think that's necessarily true. I mean, you're obviously trying to run an aggressive style deck where you will be playing Mana Confluence, you will be playing the Pain Lands, the Yavimaya Coast, the Shivan Reefs, to really force these cards out as quick as possible and hit your curve.
Yeah, and I think the other issue is, so like if you look at Jeff's list, for instance, he's playing Elvish Mystic on 1, he's playing Wild Slashes on 1, then on turn 2 he's trying to play Heir of the Wilds, Frostwalker, you know, maybe like a Lightning Strike. So like there's just so many, it's just so mana intensive.
Yes.
You go to turn 3, you got double green for Courser of Crufix, and then you have a Rabble Master, and then you have, you know, Rug Colors for Savage Knuckleblade. So like it's just you keep ramping up and you just keep being more mana intensive and more mana intensive, whereas the other decks I don't think that are 3-color are a little less mana intensive, I think.
They also have...
Plus they're not being as aggressive. So.
Yeah, and more effective ways to gain life. Siege Rhino, huge way for Abzan to gain life after it's thought seized its opponents or after it's taken damage from Pain Lands.
Yeah, definitely agree.
We got a quote from Jeff Hoogland, damn lethal threats. When those Elvish Mystics were played,
Yeah,
was not happy with the
No.
the double Elvish Mystic.
No, they were fine there. They would have gotten the job done. Fortunately, the top deck Stormbreath Dragon got the job done.
Yeah, for sure.
But fortunately for him, he won game 1, so he'll be on the play. And it looks like being on the play, I think, is pretty important in this matchup.
If he can come out with the start like he had game 1, I mean that was a great start.
Yeah, that was a good start. Justin there had a pretty good start himself.
Yeah.
But helped along by Jeff not drawing any lands, I think, primarily. So
I'm surprised Jeff hasn't looked into Yasova for games like this, at least as a sideboard card to effectively take his opponent's creatures active treason style and just turn them against him. I mean, it seems really strong in these Mirror Aggro lists. Not to mention, it turns on a majority of your ferocious cards.
So looking at Jeff's hand, I think he's going to keep. It might be a little land heavy, but he does have a turn 1 Elvish Mystic. And looks like he probably has. I might even have a turn 2 Rabble Master. Can't see what that red card is. I think it's a Wild Slash, but Justin got a mulligan. So Jeff going to keep, Justin going to mulligan.
Kind of bodes well. I mean,
yeah, whenever you keeping your opponent mulligans, yeah, things are typically good for you.
Yeah, I mean, you hope so, unless the deck can mulligan pretty well, and we've seen that this red-green monsters list seems to be a hybrid of the aggro and the monsters, as we saw Fanatic of Xenagos, which is typically an aggro card.
Yeah, I like this deck. Once again, saying that with tongue-in-cheek because I'm not a huge green creature fan, but I think both these decks are pretty sweet.
I had to admit yesterday, I mean, we had a long conversation in the car right here about how good I thought Fanatic of Xenagos was, and it's probably one of my favorite green creatures in the format. Granted, I do not play aggro myself, and I'm a blue player.
So Justin had a lot of high casting cost cards there, and not very many lands. I think he just had some mountains, so he had to ship that one back. And fortunately for him, he's going to go down to 5, and this is not the time you want to go down to 5 when you are on the draw, playing for top 8 here.
Boy, this first of all, I don't know. Have you seen some of the names going into top 8?
I have seen. It's going to be a stacked top 8.
It is going to be a really stacked top 8. So I suggest you guys stick around and hang on for top 8. These, first of all, the 9 rounds of standard we have been great. We've seen some really good plays. But this top 8 is just lit up with good names and a bunch of good Magic that you're going to want to watch. So let's see if Justin likes his 5.
Oh, he's got, looks like a mountain and a forest, and some interaction and a Wild Slash and Heir of the Wild, so I think he's going to keep it.
Well, yep, Wild Slash or Mystic.
Wild Slash the Mystic. So hopefully Jeff was not banking on that card for casted some of his spells. But there's a Frontier Bivouac from Jeff, and Justin gonna play a Forest and play an Era of the Wilds. Jeff gonna take a draw. Looks like a Frostwalker. Card is sweet. Said it again. I think Jeff gonna. Looks like he's gonna play a Courser of Crucifix and reveal a Mana Confluence. So Jeff not being as aggressive here. There's a Fanatic of Xenagos. The card has been pretty good. It's got a pretty big butt on it. So I imagine Jeff just makes it a 3/3. And that's the one that gives it haste, right? Yeah, just get it a 3/3 and it just bounces off the Courser. I imagine that's what Jeff's going to do here.
Well, no. It would become a 4/4 with haste because it gets +1/+1 until end of turn.
All right. Yeah, which is unfortunate. Maybe because then the Era of Wild's going to attack too. Yeah.
And like I said, I think this is where you run into why this card is good, because it allows it to turn the Ferocious on.
Yeah, so Justin is going to attack for 7. Jeff's going to go down to 13. So pretty good draw on a mulligan here from Justin.
Yep.
Jeff has a Kratos Call on top, so let's see what he can line up here. He does have the Wild Slash in hand and a Frostwalker. So I think he will be able to take out this Era of the Wilds, and then I think he's probably hoping to roadblock this Fanatic with this Courser. But so he's gonna Kratos Calls the Fanatic for 3 because that thing turns on Ferocious, and Frostwalker does it again. It's been impressive every single time we've seen it on camera today.
Yeah, definitely. Getting through with the extra damage, by the way. Good attack by Jeff. So, I like attacking with the Courser.
Yep, that's a dead Frostwalker there. Wild Slash by Justin. Gonna attack in for 2. Jeff gonna go down to 11.
So now it's a slugfest.
Yeah.
And this is what I like to watch from these decks. Is I like to watch where these guys just go ham and start pounding each other.
So Jeff's gonna go up to 12. Sees another land on top of his deck. Jeff's a little light on action here. He doesn't have any of these big threats like the Shaman of the Great Hunt or Stormbreath Dragon or Rabblemaster to really take away the game. He just has some Coursers and looks like Kratos Cause. So
the question is can this Courser keep him in?
Yeah, so Justin, I think, is going to get a warning for looking at extra cards here.
Yep.
Looks like he looked at extra cards, so hopefully he doesn't have any prior warnings, at least not 2 prior warnings. That might get him a game loss, because that would also be an unfortunate way to go out. Especially because I think he's in like a decent position here.
For top 8, definitely. Judges coming over after Jeff called. They are discussing looking at other cards, alternatively off the top of Justin's deck.
Yep.
Boy, this would be a sad way to go.
This would be a sad way to go.
Top 8.
I've seen it happen, man. I saw some guy get what? It was either, I think it was a GP where he was playing Affinity and he had missed so many lifelink triggers on Vault Scourge.
Sure.
And accumulated like he had already gotten 1 game loss.
Yeah.
And he accumulated another game loss while playing for top 8, and just because he missed lifelink triggers. So.
Yeah, I mean, recognizing mistakes that your opponent makes, and then recognizing your own mistakes are things that you have to do at this level of competitive Magic.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially when these guys are playing for $5,000 in cash. I mean, you get,
Yeah, you never know when your opponent's trying to get an edge on you if you don't call a judge on them.
Didn't you draw an extra card once?
Man, I've drawn extra cards.
Oh, jeez. Here we get an edge. Listen to this guy.
So Jeff gonna Wild Slash the Era of the Wilds, and looks like got another land on top of his deck and another land on top of his deck. So Jeff flooding out pretty bad here, but luckily for him, Justin is looks like he's a little bit land screwed. And there's a Rabblemaster.
Sure.
So Justin gonna get a little bit of value out of this, and I imagine gonna get it eaten by Kratos Claws here. So Jeff draws his land. Reveals a
There's a Knuckle Blade. That's a good draw.
Yeah, that's what Jeff wants to see.
Gain life off Courser. And this is for the people who before were questioning Courser and just its kind of position in decks. This card has held on to so many games for so many people today.
Yeah, I mean, if Jeff didn't have Courser Crucifix here, he would have been so
He would have
dead.
been in a bad position. Not to mention, if I'm doing my math right, this Courser's gotten in for close to a total of 6 damage so far by itself.
Yeah.
Or 8. I mean, the damage it's been doing by attacking alone. Is he a Shaman of the Great Hunt, though?
So that's really good for Justin. He is able to find his 4th land, and he's going to attack in for 5. with his Shaman of the Great Hunt and put Jeff down to 8 and then pump his team. So Jeff is going to need some help here. Oh,
he sees it in the form of Shaman himself.
So he's got his own. Of note, though, the Savage Knuckleblade will be able to roadblock these guys pretty well.
Yeah.
The Shaman isn't going to be able to attack into him because he can just pump to make him a 6/6.
Well, the Knuckleblade can block down the Shaman, correct?
Yeah.
And then the Courser can just take care of the Goblin token?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, the Knuckleblade will be a good way to
kill the Shaman.
Yeah, so I wonder if Jeff even wants to just give this guy haste and attack in for 6 and then hold back the Courser. I think there's an argument.
Then you'd be taking 5. You have the potential for your opponent to have a lightning strike.
So you're going to take... Well, you don't have to take 5. You can chump. You can go take 2, go to 7. I actually kind of like that line.
I think I'm closer on the let's keep the Knuckleblade back.
Well, he has to actually take some actual damage since he has a mana confluence. Either that or he can get rid of the Shaman of the Great Hunt. So Jeff deciding if that's the line he wants to take. He has to take a damage to give his creature haste and or take a damage to... well, he has to either take 2 damage to give his creature haste and pump it, or take 2 damage and then also get rid of his Shaman of the Great Hunt. So, but he will put his opponent on a 2-turn clock. Although, it looks like Justin does have Crater's Claws in his hand, which right now is a 5-point burn spell.
Correct.
So,
and this is where I worry if you're Jeff and you're becoming aggressive in the face of a creature that turns on your opponent's ferocious spells.
Yeah, I know. This
is got to be really... You're walking a thin line here.
Yeah. So Jeff is going to attack. Going to go to 8 after tapping that, and if he taps out, he's going to die. He's going to get Crater's Claws out of this game. He's going to take 2 off the Goblin, and then get Crater's Claws for 5. So.
And this is why I am very nervous about a situation like this, where even Justin, I mean, just has a really aggressive line of play.
Yeah, but I mean, Jeff's kind of like locked into this play.
Yeah.
He attacked, and like I just don't. If you already gave your haste, but I think he's just gonna hit him for 4. So he's dead to a land.
Oh boy.
Dead to a lot of things here.
It's 8-8 right now.
Justin looks like does not draw lands, but it kind of looks like he drew another Shaman of the Great Hunt, which can't argue with a 4-mana haster.
What's the last card in Jeff's hand?
Jeff has a land in hand.
Is that all it is?
Yeah. So Justin tapping 4 mana. So let's see what he has. So he chooses to Crater's Claws the Courser. Okay. He's going to Crater's Claws the Courser, and then attack in for 7. And does he have another Crater's Claws in hand? Jeff's going to go to 1. Now he's not going to be able to use his mana confluence, but I mean, Jeff's going to draw the Shaman of the Great Hunt, cast Shaman of the Great Hunt,
and that's it.
And Jeff Hoogland wins a game that I'm pretty sure he was dead on board.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Justin Williams had the game locked up if he just attacks and then Crater Claws Jeff's face. But
yeah, I'm not sure why the Crater Claws wasn't played there. It was really confusing at the end. Why did he...
Yeah, maybe he did the combat math wrong. I don't know.
I'm not sure. I mean, life totals, I'm pretty sure were correct.
Yeah, they were 100% correct.
Yeah, that was very strange.
Yeah.
So Justin Williams just maybe not doing the combat math right. Yeah, you swing with the token.
Swing with everything. He can block one of your guys. He's going to block the Shaman, and then you take 2. He goes to 5, and then you Crater's Claws and kill him
for damage. Yeah, that seems like the play. Jeff Hoogland makes top 8 though.
Yep.
So congratulations to him.
Congratulations.
Interesting. Definitely an interesting match. Very, very crazy.
Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, Justin on a mulligan to 5 had that game won.
Yes.
But yeah.
All right. Well,
A little bit of a misplay there.
I mean, we have that, and that happens. That
Yeah.
you're under pressure.
Sure,
you're
definitely.
trying to make the cut. You know,
Yeah, under pressure, under the bright lights of the feature match. But yeah,
area. I mean, you're in the bubble out there.
trying to make
There's-
top 8 for a couple $100.
Yeah, definitely. So we're gonna have a stacked top 8 coming up shortly for you guys. That will be streamed. So that's gonna be in about probably 30 minutes here after players and deck reg and all that stuff get taken care of. Correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Awesome. So let's see. Do we have any other cards that we have not done yet? What?
We haven't talked about black yet.
We haven't talked about black yet. So let's get
Always
into
bet
black.
on black.
Let's see what we've got for black. So here, for the standard playmaker segment, you can kind of see the black cards that are really popular in the format now. You've got Tassiger that's seen a bunch of play today. Thoughtseize is a standard card that everybody loves. Hero's Downfall and Murderous Cut, 2 removal spells.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what black is known for.
I don't know if everybody loves Thoughtseize. I don't know how I'd say that.
Sure.
But, yeah. These are definitely the sweet black delve cards that have defined sort of like this standard format.
Yeah.
And then the old guard of Heroes Downfall and Thoughtseize, the Theros black cards that absolutely ruined last standard format.
I mean, you can argue the fact that when Thoughtseize was spoiled for being reprinted, people went bananas.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was sweet. It was a $60 card, and now people can get it for $20. But it is kind of oppressive.
So this is kind of an area, and I want to talk about your picks first, only because this is an area where I feel like we were kind of on par for a majority of our picks. And so let's start off with your Battle Brawler.
All right. So I kind of just want to see like a black-white warrior stack.
Okay,
and
sure.
I feel like Battle Brawler is a warrior.
Yep.
If you have a white creature, which I imagine you will with the Chiefs, like
Yep.
he turns into a like 3/2 first striking warrior for 2.
Yeah.
So like that's what I picked him and what I was hoping to see today. Unfortunately, we didn't see it.
So how do you feel about a turn 1? You could do turn 1 caves, let's say. Tap, take a damage. I'm going to play my my Mardu Woe Reaper.
Sure.
And then turn 2, I'm going to drop this guy.
Yeah,
so
that
now I
seems-
have a 3/2 first striker.
Right.
I can punch through your Caradids. I can get through for damage.
Yeah.
Or on the flip side, if you're still in the Warriors, you can attack with your Woe Reaper and then play the discard to drop the 2/1
Sure.
with
yeah.
raid.
I mean, you play Chief of the Edge, so now you got a 4/2 first striker that punches through carries.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think the card's pretty good.
All right, I'm on board with that, and I like your second pick too in Brutal Horde Chief.
Yeah, so it's like Hellrider without haste, and
Yeah.
also like lines up terrible blocks or good blocks. Like it's just going to line up terrible blocks for your opponent. Whether
all the
it's
time.
to kill all your opponent's creatures or make it so all your opponent's creatures just block one creature and you attack through for lethal damage.
Yep.
And then the drain is pretty sweet too. I think the downside with this card though is that it has 3 toughness, and so it doesn't line up very well against Lightning Strike. But
here you're trading the 3/3, the power and toughness. I think when looking at the design of the card, you're only paying 1 black for this card. It's not like they're making you pay
Sure.
double black 2. And so I feel like definitely if you're talking about this white black Mardu color kind of warrior deck, it makes the card much easier to cast than when we look at like Hellrider or something like that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Also, of note, it is a warrior, so
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
I
it
got a
is.
little bit of a warrior
For
thing
sure.
going on here with my black picks.
I agree with that, and I would hate to say that I kind of tagged along, and I know we did our picks separately, but Mardu Strike Leader was a card to me that stood out in the same vein that these two did. I think that card is just amazing.
Yeah, I think that card's really sweet too, and I've seen it play out in a bunch of games of Limited where it's just insane.
Yeah. Yep.
It just demands a removal spell right away, or it just gets so much value.
And
once again, also a warrior. So
correct.
Is every single black creature a warrior? Can
They're
we
pretty
get
close.
a confirmation on that?
On top of the fact that can't we play Raider Spoils, which is
you can, yeah.
pump our team, draw a card? I mean,
could.
those are all real things. I don't know if Raider Spoils might be a reach, but I like the aggression that all 3 of these creatures kind of throw out on the battlefield. Plus, I think the dash mechanic with the ability to leave a token there is really amazing, especially if we're playing, let's say, maybe not black-white, but let's say we're playing black-red warriors.
Yeah.
And now I have Outpost Siege, so now my tokens that I'm leaving behind, or when my creatures dash back to my hand, are now dealing damage to my opponent or their creatures.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Like the dash mechanic with
Correct.
Outpost Siege is actually pretty sweet.
Very sweet.
Plus,
yeah.
the card is dash is just really sweet against sorcery speed removal.
Yes, it is.
The slower control decks, dash is just amazing.
I agree. And the last pick was kind of Palace Siege. And I know we've had a lot of the sieges on today. I just feel like this card is a card that could be used in control as a drain 2, gain 2 kind of effect. And I guess I really like it. I think it's a card that's underplayed. The 5 mana kind of turned me away from it, but it was still a pick that I'd hope I'd see in a sideboard or maybe in a more aggressive Adrian Sullivan blue-black control list.
Yeah, you love you some sieges, but I think that what I want to do when I play sieges is I want to find a deck where I can play both halves. So once again, this requires me to play a deck where I'm trying to get back creatures from my graveyard to my hand, and then also trying to find a place where the life gain might be relevant. So yeah, I think in maybe some like slower. So we saw that Abzan control deck that Matt Hoey was playing.
Yes,
that might be a place where you could play it.
I'd agree.
You know, I think it probably has applications in both. In that deck, where you, like, if you want against a control deck, you can take the slower route and start gaining value by getting cards back to your graveyard. But when you want to be aggressive with your Siege Rhinos and your Tassigers, you can also use the Dragons mode to try to pressure your opponent.
Sure, and this may have been because for a while there we saw the really aggressive black-green kind of constellation decks, and I feel like this card is perfectly at home in that type of deck. Not only if you're playing the Frontier Siege, this card can be cast much earlier than expected on opponents. You can get back your, Eidolon Blossoms. You can get back your Doomwake Giants that are in the yard. So now, Whip is still a good card, but this is still an enchantment that you're proccing things with. It's allowing you late game to drain the opponent, or early game to get back creatures that your opponent may have removed.
Yeah, and it definitely, some of you watch some of those games between those decks, like especially the mirror of those devotion decks, they just turn into stalemates, and this is a card where you can play the Dragons mode and get some reach too.
Correct. Yeah, so. I agree. All right, guys. Well, we've got about 12 minutes left here before the pairings for top 8. I'm going to ask you to stick around. Make sure you definitely tune in this top 8 because it is going to be awesome. What we will do, it'll probably take some extra time just to get the pairings and everything sitted out and, make sure that we pick the correct match that we want to display. But believe me when I say that this is going to be a stacked top 8. I will be back shortly with the players in top 8 once we find out here in the booth. So stay with us.